You're nothing but a distraction.
It's over. It's finally over.
The ballroom glittered beneath crystal chandeliers as laughter echoed across the marble floor. Elena Brooks stood in the spotlight, trembling, her husband's voice cutting through the music like glass. Nathan Brooks, 52, CEO of Brooks Tech, smirked while cameras flashed. "You're nothing but a distraction," he sneered, his words sharp enough to slice her pride. Gasps rippled through the crowd as whispers spread faster than champagne bubbles. Humiliated, Elena's legs buckled beneath the weight of betrayal. Security advanced as Nathan waved them on, cold and final. Yet high above, someone watched in silence. Lucas Grant, the billionaire owner of this building. Don't scroll just yet. What happens next will shatter your heart and restore your faith in karma. In this true-to-life story of betrayal and redemption, you'll witness how greed can destroy everything and how love can rebuild it stronger than ever. Before you dive into Elena's journey, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that move your soul. Share this video if you believe that no pain lasts forever and that justice always finds its way home. Stay with us, because the night that broke her became the moment destiny began to rewrite itself. Manhattan Gala tonight. Manhattan's skyline glimmered outside the towering glass windows of the Grand Plaza Hotel, where New York's elite gathered for the annual Tech Vision Gala. The scent of expensive perfume filled the air, blending with the sound of soft jazz and clinking glasses. Elena Brooks, 32, wore a champagne-colored gown that shimmered under the lights, her eyes full of quiet hope. Beside her stood her husband, Nathan Brooks, the powerful founder of Brooks Tech, exuding charm for the cameras. No one could guess the storm brewing beneath his flawless smile, a secret affair, a plan for betrayal, and the end of a marriage. Across the room, Vanessa Reed, 44, the striking investor everyone admired, exchanged a discreet glance with Nathan. She was elegant, poised, and married to billionaire real estate mogul Charles Reed. Few knew her perfectly practiced smile, concealed ambition as cold as marble. Vanessa had whispered promises into Nathan's ear, power, expansion, and access to her husband's empire. All Nathan had to do was cut ties with the woman who once helped build his company from scratch. Elena, unaware of their deceit, adjusted her pearl earrings and looked up at her husband with pride. Tonight, she planned to surprise him with joy. Elena had spent months preparing for this moment, a night she thought would unite them again. Her first independent project, a design app crafted to empower small creators, was about to launch. She believed Nathan would be proud, perhaps even moved. But as she clutched her tablet backstage, her hands trembled. The event manager announced Brooks Tech's CEO would soon address the audience, and Elena smiled nervously. When Nathan approached the podium, applause filled the hall. She waited for him to acknowledge her, the woman who stood beside him through every struggle. Instead, his eyes were distant, calculating already miles away. Nathan began his speech smoothly, his voice steady and confident, drawing admiration from investors seated across gold-laced tables. "Innovation requires sacrifice," he said, glancing briefly at Vanessa. "Some people don't understand that success demands focus." The crowd nodded approvingly, unaware of his hidden meaning. Elena, standing near the edge of the stage, clutched her prototype tightly, unaware the words were daggers meant for her. Nathan smiled for the cameras, his mask flawless. Then, in a sudden gesture that silenced the room, he turned toward Elena. "Even at home," he added sharply, "some distractions come dressed as support." Laughter rippled softly. Elena froze, confused by the undertone. The spotlight caught her expression, hurt, bewildered, exposed. "Nathan," she whispered, forcing a smile. The audience shifted, sensing tension. Vanessa hid a smirk behind her wine glass, watching the humiliation unfold like theater. Elena took a trembling step forward, determined to salvage the moment. "I wanted to share something with you," she began, her voice shaking. "A project I've been developing, something I hope would make you proud." She tapped her screen. Her app's logo appeared on the projection wall behind them. Murmurs spread through the audience. Nathan's smile vanished. He wasn't expecting the surprise. For a moment, there was silence. Then Nathan chuckled, a sharp, hollow sound. "Proud?" he said loudly, facing the crowd. "You've been playing with hobbies while I'm building an empire?" His laughter carried across the ballroom, twisting the air with cruelty. Cameras captured every second. Journalists scribbled notes like vultures. Elena's lips quivered, her courage slipping away. "It's not a hobby," she whispered. "It's something I've worked on for months." Nathan waved dismissively. "Save it. This isn't the place for your little experiments." His words stung deeper than any wound. The audience looked away, pretending not to witness the collapse. Tears welled in Elena's eyes as whispers filled the room. Her humiliation was complete, yet she held her ground. "I just wanted to tell you," she said softly. "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air like broken glass. Nathan blinked, his smirk faltering for only a moment before cruelty returned. "Pregnant," he repeated. "That explains the distractions." Laughter erupted from a few heartless guests, egged on by his tone. Vanessa's lips curved into satisfaction, watching her plan unfold perfectly. Elena's knees weakened, the room spinning as flashbulbs flickered. This was supposed to be joy. But he turned it into ruin. Nathan stepped closer, lowering his voice but keeping his mic on. "You really thought this would impress me? Announcing a baby in front of investors?" he hissed. "You're a liability. Elena, a burden I can't afford anymore." The microphone carried every word through the hall. Gasps echoed. Vanessa pretended to look shocked, but her eyes gleamed. Nathan gestured to security. "Get her out of here. Tonight we're done." The guard hesitated, uncertain if he was serious. "Now," he barked. As they approached, Elena's trembling hand reached for him, but he stepped back. "Don't touch me," he said coldly. The guards escorted Elena toward the exit. Her heels clicked weakly against a marble floor as the ballroom blurred through tears. Guests whispered, some pitying, others recording. Nathan adjusted his cufflinks, straightened his suit, and faced the cameras again. "Let's continue," he said casually, as though he hadn't just destroyed a life. Vanessa leaned back, crossing her legs, her diamond bracelet catching the light. Elena stumbled outside into the cold Manhattan air, her body shaking. She clutched her stomach protectively, whispering, "I'll be okay." But her vision dimmed, her balance faltered, and the city lights melted into darkness. Inside the tower's private suite, 55-year-old billionaire Lucas Grant watched the chaos unfold through security monitors. He recognized the woman immediately, the same young designer who once encouraged him years ago when his company faced collapse. His jaw tightened as he saw her fall to the pavement. "Mason," he said into his earpiece, "get her now. Bring her to my clinic, quietly." Down below, Mason Carter and his team rushed to her side. Lucas stood motionless before the screen, eyes burning with disbelief. He'd seen ruthless men before, but this felt different. Something about her collapse struck deeper than business. Owner's suite, CCTV feeds. Mason Carter and two guards were already in motion when Lucas's order reached them. Outside the revolving doors, they found Elena crumpled beside the steps, eyes closed, breath shallow. "We have you," Mason said, checking her pulse and shielding her from phones. He signaled the driver waiting at the curb. "Private clinic, priority route." As they lifted her gently, a hush fell over the onlookers. Flashbulbs paused, uncertain. The SUV door shut, sealing her from mouths. Mason climbed in beside her, hand steady near her wrist, and radioed ahead. "Prepare Trauma Bay, confidentiality in force." They pulled away into the night. The SUV cut across late traffic under a police escort arranged by Grant Security. Inside, Elena stirred, whispering to the fog of humiliation and fear. "My baby," she murmured. "You're safe," Mason replied, calm and measured. He relayed vitals to the clinic nurse on speaker. "Female, early pregnancy, fainted after acute stress, breathing stable." The nurse acknowledged preparations were underway. Mason loosened his tie, folded his jacket beneath her head, and kept talking softly so she would orient. Sirens cleared intersections. City lights streaked past windows like rain turned to glass. The driver focused forward, disciplined, avoiding sudden turns. Grant Medical's night team moved with practiced precision. Dr. Naomi Blake guided the gurney through sliding doors, eyes tracking color, breathing, responsiveness. Stabilize fluids, check pressure, start fetal monitoring, she instructed. Mason signed confidentiality forms already prepared. No external records, alias only. Naomi nodded. An ultrasound card hummed to life as a nurse slid a warm blanket over Elena's shoulders. The dim room softened into hush. Gel touched skin. The probe found motion. On the monitor, small bright pulses flickered like distant buoys holding steady against black water. Naomi breathed out slowly, centering the room with practiced, reassuring authority. There, Lucas arrived quietly and stood aside while the team finished checks. He did not speak her name or step closer than necessary. He watched the screen instead, following Naomi's fingertip tracing shapes within grainy light. There, Naomi said gently, 1 heartbeat, 2, 3. Mason's shoulders finally relaxed. Lucas swallowed, emotion tight in his throat. Triplets, Naomi confirmed. Early but viable. The stress was dangerous. Rest is critical. Lucas nodded once, jaw set. He glanced toward the door, imagining the ballroom still spinning. He thought, not here, not in my building, not to her again. He would not allow it again. Hours later, the crisis settled into quiet recovery. Monitors beeped steadily like a metronome reassuring a bruised heart. Elena slept, lashes damp, breath evening out in gentle waves. Lucas stepped into the corridor and faced a river, black glass under winter lights. He remembered a small conference room where a young designer told him failure was not final. Tonight, that same courage was punished in public. Mason joined him with updates. Media is circling, he said. Nothing points here. Lucas nodded. Keep it that way. Lock access logs. He looked back through glass. We protect her every step. From now, morning brought pale sun through high windows. Elena woke to linen and lavender, the air calm and clean. A nurse adjusted her pillow and offered water. You are safe here. Elena touched her abdomen, fear burning back through memory. The baby? She asked, voice breaking. Dr. Naomi Blake entered with a measured smile. Your babies are holding strong, she said. Elena blinked. Babies? Naomi rolled the monitor closer, letting tiny rhythms fill the room. 3 heartbeats. All stable. Tears gathered at the corners of Elena's eyes, relief mixing with grief until her chest finally loosened enough to breathe. At last, Naomi sat beside the bed, voice low and warm. Stress did this no favors. We will keep you a few days, then discuss slower routines. Elena stared at the ceiling, replaying laughter and the last cold sentence. He told them I was a burden, she said. Naomi did not look away. Cruelty says nothing about your worth. She adjusted the blanket and stood. Someone would like to check on you, if that is all right. Elena frowned. A reporter? Naomi shook her head. No, a friend who wants nothing from you. Elena hesitated, then nodded, bracing herself as the door opened. Lucas stepped in, jacket folded over his arm, expression careful. Elena studied him, recognition cutting through the haze. Mr. Grant, she said softly, from the old summit. He offered a small smile. You remembered. She tried to sit. Pain flickered. He stopped at the foot of the bed. Do not strain, he said. You are safe. There is no press here. Her eyes filled. You saw. He nodded once. Enough to know you deserve better. Silence held between them, steady and human. Thank you, she whispered, the words trembling, landing like shelter after wind. He answered with a simple nod. Elena wiped her cheeks. I do not want charity. Lucas's voice stayed even. Neither do I. This is not charity. It is follow-through. Years ago you told me to hold the line when I wanted to disappear. I did. Let me return steadiness while you heal. She searched his face for performance and found none. Why me? Because you were kind when it cost nothing, he answered. Kindness is rare currency. She exhaled, a small surrender. Then help me keep the noise away. Lucas nodded. We will keep it away. Entirely. Mason will manage access and doorways. Trust him. Days settled into a gentler rhythm. Naomi adjusted medications. Nurses dimmed lights early. Alarms stayed soft. Mason controlled deliveries, visitors, and staff rotations, insisting on quiet protocol. Lucas visited at odd hours, sometimes bringing sketch paper and pencils. "Hands remember before minds do," he said, setting them by the window. Elena drew lines first, then shapes, then rooms with water beyond the glass. The tremor in her hand eased. She spoke little, but when she slept, her breathing deepened. In the low hush, the future felt possible again, fragile and real. Outside, spring gathered itself along the river and streets. Chicago, months of quiet. 3 weeks later, Elena left Grant Medical under a new identity arranged quietly by Lucas. Her documents read Ellen Brooks, a small but crucial disguise from the headlines. A black sedan drove her west, past glittering Manhattan bridges, toward Chicago's quieter rhythm. Snow framed the road like white curtains closing one act to open another. Lucas stayed behind, overseeing arrangements remotely. He secured her a furnished apartment overlooking Lake Michigan, stocked with food, art supplies, and peace. For the first time in months, silence felt safe. She unpacked slowly, breathing through memory, promising herself, "No one will find me again." Days turned into weeks as Elena adjusted to a life defined by solitude. Mornings began with tea on the balcony, her body wrapped in a blanket, eyes tracing the frozen lake. The city was calmer here. Neighbors smiled politely but never asked questions. Lucas's assistant, Mason, checked in weekly, delivering envelopes labeled only maintenance. Inside were funds and soft notes. For whatever brings calm. Elena spent hours sketching. Buildings, children she hadn't yet met, fragments of hope she was learning to rebuild. At night, she talked to the growing lives inside her, whispering dreams of safety, strength, and love without humiliation. Spring came slowly, washing color back into Chicago's skyline. Elena's pregnancy blossomed with it. Every heartbeat a reminder that endings could still birth beginnings. Dr. Naomi Blake called weekly to monitor progress, guiding her gently through fear. "Triplet pregnancies are demanding," Naomi said, "but you're remarkably resilient." Elena smiled faintly over phone. "They give me reasons to keep breathing." Lucas occasionally sent flowers, but never intruded. His distance carried respect, not neglect. Elena often found herself staring at those flowers, bright tulips and lilies, and thinking some men destroy with power, others protect with it. That thought comforted her deeply. By the 8th month, her small apartment transformed into a haven of preparation. Cribs lined one wall. Sketches of tiny faces covered another. Mason stopped by with supplies, blankets, monitors, and a handmade wooden rocking chair. "For Mr. Grant," he said, setting it down. "He built it himself last weekend." Elena ran her fingers along the smooth edges, tears welling quietly. "He didn't have to," she whispered. Mason smiled softly. "He never does anything halfway." Later that night, she sat in the chair, hand resting on her stomach, murmuring to her unborn children, "You'll know kindness before cruelty. I promise." The contractions came early one humid night in July. Thunder rolled over the city as Mason sped through empty streets. Dr. Blake on standby at the clinic. Elena gripped his hand between cries. "Breathe," he reminded softly. "Almost there." Within minutes, the delivery room filled with urgency and calm, monitors beeping, nurses focused. Hours stretched into eternity before 3 soft cries filled the air. Dr. Blake smiled through exhaustion. Triplets, 2 girls and 1 boy. Elena wept as they placed the infants beside her. "Sophia, Arya, Noah," she whispered. Tiny fingers curled around hers. "Welcome home, my little miracles." Lucas arrived at dawn, his steps hesitant but heart-certain. Through the nursery window, he watched Elena asleep, surrounded by her newborns. The sight pulled something deep within him, a sense of restoration he hadn't known he craved. Dr. Blake joined him quietly. "They're healthy," she said, "and she's stronger than anyone I've treated in years." Lucas nodded, eyes fixed on the small family. "Let her rest," he murmured. Before leaving, he placed an envelope on the counter. Property papers for the apartment, now officially hers. No rent, no conditions, his note read. Just space to breathe. LG, weeks turned peaceful. Elena devoted herself to motherhood, learning every cry, laugh, and rhythm the triplets offered. Her days overflowed with bottles, lullabies, and moments that stitched love into memory. Occasionally, Lucas visited briefly, never unannounced, never overstaying. He'd stand at the doorway, smile gently, and leave behind small tokens, baby books, framed sketches she'd drawn, and notes encouraging her strength. Yuri building something precious. One read, "At night, after feeding the babies, she'd reread his messages and whisper softly, 'Thank you.'" She didn't know when gratitude had turned into warmth, but her heart already recognized his quiet devotion. The triplets grew fast. 3 unique personalities in matching smiles. Sophia was curious, Arya quiet, Noah fiercely protective even as a baby. Their laughter filled the apartment, echoing through halls once haunted by silence. Lucas stopped by one afternoon with toys, crouching to greet them. "Hello, little champions," he said warmly. Noah toddled forward, gripping his thumb. Elena smiled shyly. "You have that effect on them." Lucas chuckled. "Children know sincerity. You can't fake it." He looked up, eyes meeting hers briefly before retreating to safety. "You're doing beautifully, Elena." For the first time in years, she believed it was true. Months passed, seasons turning from summer to fall. Elena's freelance design work began drawing attention again. Quiet commissions from small firms, remote clients unaware of her identity. Lucas's company quietly ensured her projects found visibility. She earned honestly, unaware of his discreet assistance. "Let her think it's all her merit," he'd told Mason. "She deserves that." By Christmas, the triplets were walking, giggling around the decorated tree Lucas sent anonymously. Elena stood by the window, snow drifting outside, whispering, "We're doing okay." For the first time, her voice carried conviction instead of hope. Healing, at last, had become habit. 5 years slipped by like chapters in a novel rewritten by Grace. Chicago's skyline glittered each dawn as Elena balanced motherhood and artistry. The triplets, bright, compassionate, endlessly curious, filled every corner of her life. On weekends, Lucas joined them for walks by the lake, carrying picnic baskets and quiet laughter. To neighbors, they seemed a close-knit circle of friends. Only the children called him Mr. Lucas, unaware their future would one day bind deeper. When the sun dipped behind the lake, Elena often caught herself watching him, steady, gentle, familiar, and realizing peace had finally found its rightful place. 5 years later, lakefront routine, morning sunlight spilled across the Chicago lakefront, painting ripples in gold. Elena walked hand in hand with her 5-year-old triplets, Sophia chasing gulls, Arya humming softly, and Noah skipping stones. Behind them, Lucas carried a picnic basket, his steady presence blending naturally into their laughter. Strangers often mistook them for family, and though Elena always smiled politely, something in her heart agreed. She had built a peaceful rhythm, design projects by day, bedtime stories by night, quiet gratitude in between. Each morning began not with fear, but with purpose. The past still whispered sometimes, but its voice grew fainter daily. The lake breeze tangled Elena's hair as she spread a blanket on the grass. Lucas unpacked sandwiches, fruit, and tiny juice boxes labeled with each child's name. "You didn't have to do all this," she said, laughing. "I wanted to," he replied simply. The triplets ran toward the water, leaving them momentarily alone. "They adore you," she admitted quietly. Lucas glanced at her, half smiling. Children sense truth. Silence lingered, not awkward, but weighted with unspoken care. For years, he had been her safe harbor. Now, his presence stirred feelings she couldn't quite categorize, somewhere between gratitude and something dangerously tender. Later that afternoon, Lucas walked the children to the playground while Elena sketched nearby. From her bench, she watched him push swings gently, laughing as Noah demanded higher turns. Sophia shouted, "Again, Mr. Lucas!" and he obliged, his laughter rich and warm. Passers-by smiled at the scene, assuming he was their father. Elena's pencil hesitated mid-stroke as a motion pricked her chest. She realized she hadn't drawn him intentionally, yet his image filled every page lately. The way he knelt to tie Aria's shoe, the gentleness in his voice. It all whispered of something bigger forming quietly, one kind gesture at a time. That evening, rain tapped softly against her apartment windows. The triplets slept curled together like kittens. Elena stood by the glass, watching reflections of city lights shimmer across the water. Behind her, Lucas spoke gently. They're peaceful sleepers. She smiled. They trust the world tonight. He stepped closer, but stopped a respectful distance away. And you, she exhaled slowly. I'm learning to. Their eyes met to the faint reflection. Two survivors of different storms finding steadiness in shared silence. You don't have to thank me anymore, he murmured. This isn't repayment, it's choice. She turned slightly. Then I choose this peace too. Weeks passed, their connection deepening through subtle gestures. Shared coffee, quiet laughter, small touches of understanding. Lucas never rushed her. He knew real love wasn't claimed. It was earned. One afternoon, the triplets painted in the park, smearing color across canvases while Lucas and Elena watched. They paint like you, he said softly. No fear of mistakes. She laughed. They take after the man who keeps fixing broken things. He looked at her meaningfully. Not broken, just healing. She paused, heart-catching. The world slowed around them, sunlight glinting on water. For the first time, she didn't look away. Neither did he. The confession came unexpectedly one night after dinner. The children were asleep, cartoons still murmuring softly from the television. Elena washed dishes while Lucas dried them beside her. You built something beautiful, he said. You deserve joy again. She smiled faintly. You sound like someone who's afraid to ask a question. Lucas set the towel down. Maybe I am. The air thickened with anticipation. Then ask, she whispered. He hesitated, then said simply, Stay not because you need safety, but because you want to. Her eyes filled instantly. I already am, she replied. In that moment, words finally became truth. A few months later, under the soft glow of lanterns beside Lake Michigan, Elena and Lucas exchanged vows in a quiet ceremony witnessed only by Mason, Dr. Blake, and the triplets. Sophia carried a ring pillow. Noah proudly handed Lucas the band. You've already given me everything, Elena said, voice trembling. Family, peace, and faith again. Lucas cupped her face gently. And you gave me reason. Their kiss drew applause from the children and tears from Naomi. Fireflies danced around the shore as the city lights shimmered behind them. No press, no headlines, just two souls rewriting what love meant. Their wedding night was simple, tender, filled with quiet laughter rather than luxury. At dawn, Elena woke wrapped in Lucas's arms. Sunlight washing the room in gold. For once, the future didn't frighten her. It invited her. She rose, stepping onto the balcony, watching waves kiss the shoreline. Behind her, Lucas stirred. You're awake early. She smiled. I didn't want to miss the first morning as your wife. He joined her, wrapping his arm gently around her waist. Then let's make mornings like this a lifetime. She leaned into him, whispering, As long as there's peace, I'm already home. Life as Mrs. Grant unfolded softly. The triplets thrived in their new routine. School days, laughter-filled dinners. Weekends spent baking cookies that rarely survive an hour. Lucas juggled meetings and bedtime stories seamlessly, turning boardrooms into playgrounds of compassion. Elena reopened her design studio downtown, her name quietly regaining recognition. Reporters praised her innovative ideas, but never knew the full story behind her strength. Each night, when she tucked the children in, she'd glance toward Lucas reading by the fireplace and think, maybe fate wasn't cruel. It was patient. Their love, steady and real, grew deeper with every passing season. On their first anniversary together, Lucas surprised her with a painting, a recreation of that fateful gala night, except this time the light shone only on her. You rewrote the ending, she whispered, tears glistening. No, he said softly. You did. I just made sure you had the light. They stood together, hands entwined, watching their reflection merge in a glass frame. The children giggled in the next room, their laughter echoing like music. For the first time, Elena felt whole. Every scar transformed into story, every heartbreak into art. And in Lucas's arms, she finally found her forever calm. New beginnings, their own son. 1 year after their quiet lakeside wedding, the grand household bloomed with joy and gentle chaos. The triplets, now 6, filled mornings with laughter and evenings with stories by the fireplace. Elena glowed with another pregnancy, balanced motherhood, and designed projects effortlessly. Lucas became her anchor, guiding every storm with patience. "You don't slow down," he teased softly as she arranged sketches across the table. "Creating keeps me alive," she smiled. Their home, perched above the shimmering lake, echoed with peace. What once symbolized survival now felt like destiny. A life rebuilt not from wealth, but from kindness, resilience, and pure love. Elena's pregnancy brought back old memories. Hospital corridors, trembling fear. But this time, everything was different. Lucas attended every appointment, holding her hand during ultrasounds, whispering comfort with each heartbeat they heard. "He's strong," Dr. Blake said, smiling. "A healthy little boy." The triplets clapped excitedly. "We're getting a brother." Noah shouted proudly. Elena laughed, tears glistening. "Our family keeps growing," she whispered to Lucas. He kissed her forehead gently. Love multiplies when it's real. That night, they watched lightning dance over the water, her head resting on his shoulder, heart steady in rhythm. The world outside could wait. Peace lived here. When labor came, dawn was breaking over Chicago. Mason rushed them to Grant Medical as Dr. Blake's team prepared the room. The triplets waited at home with Naomi's nurses, their excitement spilling through phone calls. Hours passed in quiet intensity until a newborn cry broke the silence. "It's a boy," Naomi said softly, placing the child in Elena's trembling arms. Lucas stood frozen, emotion overwhelming composure. "Caleb," she whispered. "Caleb Grant." The baby's tiny fingers wrapped around hers. Lucas exhaled shakily, brushing a tear from his cheek. "Welcome home, son." Outside, sunrise painted the city in hues of new beginnings. The triplets raced into the hospital room later that afternoon, their eyes wide with wonder. "He's so small." Sophia gasped. "Can we hold him?" Ari asked softly. Lucas smiled, kneeling beside them. "One at a time." Noah puffed his chest proudly. "I'll protect him," he declared. Elena laughed through tears, watching the love already forming. She glanced at Lucas, who stood beside her, holding Caleb gently. "He completes us," she whispered. Lucas nodded, eyes soft. Every storm ends somewhere. Ours ended here. The room glowed with sunlight, laughter, and gratitude. For the first time, their story felt whole and unbreakably real. Weeks turned into months filled with diapers, lullabies, and gentle exhaustion. Lucas often woke first, cradling Caleb in his arms before the sun rose. "You spoil him," Elena teased one morning. "I'm making up for time I never had," he replied. She smiled knowingly. "You're perfect at it." The triplets adored their baby brother, leaving toys in his crib and singing off-key lullabies. Each day carried a rhythm of small miracles, ordinary moments made extraordinary by peace. Elena sometimes stood by the window, watching her family move like poetry, whispering to herself, "This is what love rebuilt looks like." Summer returned, bright and alive. The Grant family spent weekends at the lake house, picnics scattered with laughter and wind. Caleb babbled happily in Elena's arms, while the triplets splashed in shallow waves. Lucas grilled nearby, pretending to ignore the water fight behind him. "You'll lose that battle," he shouted playfully. Elena giggled. They already won. For the first time since her past unraveled, she felt no shadow behind her joy. Her heart no longer compared peace to pain. It simply lived it. "Thank you," she whispered to Lucas later that night. He smiled, brushing her cheek. "You saved me, too." Back in the city, Elena's design firm flourished. Her projects appeared in magazines, praised for blending innovation with emotion. When asked about her inspiration, she always smiled. "Life after rain," she'd answer. Meanwhile, Lucas quietly funded scholarships for single mothers in tech, naming the program Aria Code Initiative, after one of the triplets. They never publicized their efforts. Kindness remained their quiet legacy. At home, bedtime stories turned into lessons of gratitude. Kind hearts build strong worlds, Lucas told the children one night. Elena listened from the hallway, her heart swelling. They weren't just growing a family, they were shaping souls. One evening, as Chicago's skyline shimmered beyond their terrace, Lucas found Elena sketching under candlelight. "Still working?" he asked. "Always," she smiled. He leaned over, recognizing his reflection in her drawing. Caleb cradled in his arms, the triplets nearby, Elena's eyes watching from the background. "You drew us," he said softly. "It's our story," she replied. Every chapter found light again. He kissed her forehead gently. "Then let's keep writing." The city hummed below, their laughter mingling with the distant breeze. Love had stopped being a destination. It had become their daily routine, quiet, imperfect, and endlessly beautiful. Autumn arrived with crisp air and golden leaves swirling across the driveway. Elena prepared Caleb's first birthday celebration, insisting it remain small. Mason decorated, Naomi baked, and the triplets crafted handmade banners. "Family only," she'd said. That evening, they gathered under twinkling lights in the backyard. Caleb smashed cake with innocent joy while everyone cheered. "To life," Lucas toasted, "and to the people who remind us it's worth living." Elena met his gaze, her smile tender. "To second chances," she whispered back. They clinked glasses, the children giggling around them. For once, forever didn't feel distant. It sat right beside them. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Elena sat by the nursery window, moonlight brushing Caleb's face. Lucas approached quietly, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. "Still awake?" he asked. "Just thinking," she murmured, "about how everything once broken somehow found its place again." He smiled. "It wasn't luck, Elena. It was courage." She looked up, eyes reflecting soft light. "And grace," she added. They stood together, watching the stars shimmer above the city. Below them, life pulsed steady and kind. She whispered, "Let tomorrow come slowly." He kissed her hair. "It already does," he replied. Peace was complete. Elsewhere, the collapse. In Manhattan, Nathan Brooks sat behind a desk pile with unopened letters and overdue bills. The once brilliant Brooks Tech logo blinked faintly on his monitor, mocking him. Across the office, Vanessa Reed, his wife of nearly 6 years, scrolled her phone, detached, her diamond catching pale sunlight. "Investors are gone," Nathan muttered. "They don't return calls." Vanessa didn't glance up. "They prefer stability," she said flatly. "Something you stopped providing." He glared, voice sharp. "You're enjoying this." She sipped her drink. "I'm observing consequences." Silence thickened. The partnership built on lust and greed was finally eating itself alive. Neither would survive intact. Nathan slammed the folder shut, veins pulsing at his temples. "You said merging funds with Reed Global would fix everything." Vanessa smiled faintly. "It fixed me." She crossed her legs, elegance masking venom. "You thought betrayal made you powerful. I simply believed you." He stared, realizing her calm wasn't loyalty, it was triumph. "You planned this," he hissed. "You used me to hurt Charles Reed." Her shrug was effortless. "And you used me to hurt your wife. We're even." The words sliced cleaner than knives. For the first time, Nathan saw himself through her eyes, replaceable, foolish, undone by the greed he worshipped. Weeks later, Brooks Tech imploded under allegations of fraud and insider leaks. Rumors traced Vanessa's own signatures. Reporters crowded the headquarters entrance while Nathan faced cameras, sweat staining his collar. "This company is my life," he pleaded. The microphones didn't care. Headlines the next morning screamed, "Brooks Tech collapses. CEO under investigation." Former allies vanished overnight. Vanessa was already abroad finalizing private deals, her face untouched by scandal. Even Charles Reed, newly vindicated, mocked Nathan in interviews. Alone in his penthouse, Nathan hurled a decanter against the wall. It shattered loudly, but the silence afterward was worse. the sound of empire turning to dust. Vanessa returned months later, perfume preceding her indifference. "You look older," she observed, stepping over envelopes marked final notice. Nathan's hands trembled. "You ruined me." She laughed softly. "Correction, you ruined yourself. I just documented the fall." From her bag, she produced an envelope. "Divorce. You'll sign. You have nothing left to contest." He stared at her signature, already notarized. "After everything?" "Especially after everything," she replied coolly. He clenched his fists. "You'll regret this someday." Vanessa paused at the door, lowering her glasses. "Maybe, but at least I'll still have options." The door closed, leaving him surrounded by unpaid ghosts. Within months, the divorce stripped him bare. Vanessa claimed the penthouse accounts and remaining shares, leaving him with debts and humiliation. Nathan rented a narrow apartment above a noisy diner, the ceiling leaking each time it rained. Nights stretched endlessly. Whiskey replaced ambition. One evening, scrolling news feeds, he froze. The headline read, "Elena Brooks Grant awarded Designer of the Year." The photo showed her beside Lucas Grant, radiant calm, their children smiling proudly. His chest tightened. She built everything he destroyed without bitterness. Turning off the phone, he whispered, "You won." The words didn't sting. They soothed. The first truth he'd spoken in years. Nathan sat motionless, replaying a gala in memory. The laughter, the cruelty, the moment he'd ordered her out. He pressed his palms to his eyes, whispering, "If I could erase that night." But remorse never rewinds time. Outside, sirens wailed faintly under winter rain. He poured another drink, the glass clinking against trembling fingers. Across town, digital billboards flashed Elena's new collection. Her smile glowed against skyscraper lights. Proof that grace outlives vengeance. Nathan whispered, "You forgave the world. I couldn't forgive myself." For the first time, tears didn't feel weak. They felt deserved. Regret had finally found its rightful home. Months blurred into years of quiet decline. Nathan applied for consulting roles, but his name carried warning instead of value. Former partners ignored calls. Younger executives whispered a story like cautionary folklore. Vanessa remarried a foreign investor. Her photo splashed across magazines he couldn't afford to buy. Nathan pawned watches, suits, even his wedding band. Nights ended with empty glasses and whispered apologies to the dark. "You believed in me, Elena," he murmured, staring at a cracked ceiling. "I should have believed in us." Regret sat heavy but strangely cleansing. He was finally honest, with no one left to light it anymore. One snowy afternoon, Nathan wandered through Central Park, coat unbuttoned, breath fogging the air. Children played nearby, laughter ringing through frost. A woman with dark curls lifted a small boy, their joy effortless. For a heartbeat, he thought it was Elena. His chest tightened until he realized it couldn't be. Her children were older now, her world brighter. Still, the sight pierced him. "That's what love looks like when you don't break it," he whispered. He sat on a bench, watching families pass. The wind bit his skin, reminding him that punishment sometimes arrived disguised as quiet understanding. Back home, Nathan opened a worn folder labeled Elena Brooks. Project Concepts. He'd kept it hidden, maybe as penance. Inside lay sketches she once presented, the designs he'd ridiculed, each page brimmed with vision and compassion. He'd trace a note in her handwriting. "Create opportunities, not hierarchies." His throat tightened. "You change lives," he whispered. "Even mine, too late." He slid the drawings back carefully, as though returning something sacred. Outside, snowflakes fell silently over the city. For the first time in years, he didn't drink. He simply sat there, letting the cold cleanse what pride never could. Weeks later, the television flickered to a live broadcast. Elena and Lucas on stage receiving an award for philanthropy. Her voice was calm, resolute. "Forgiveness isn't weakness," she said. "It's freedom." Nathan watched, eyes glistening. "You found it," he murmured. Turning off the screen, he stood by the window as dawn colored the skyline pink. "And maybe so have I." The city below buzzed with new beginnings he no longer envied. He whispered, Thank you, Elena. The word sincere, almost prayerful. For the first time, his heart eased. Outside, sunlight broke through gray clouds, forgiving the man learning finally to forgive himself. Full circle, prime-time interview. Studio lights shimmered across polished floors as cameras adjusted focus on the evening's guests. Lucas and Elena Grant. The host smiled brightly. Tonight, we're joined by the couple redefining success through integrity. Elena's calm confidence filled the room. Lucas sat beside her, fingers lightly interlaced with hers beneath the table. Backstage, producers whispered about ratings. They knew authenticity sold better than drama. Your story has inspired millions, the host said. Elena's eyes softened. It wasn't luck, she replied. It was grace after ruin. The audience fell silent, captivated by two people who turned brokenness into something breathtakingly human. Mrs. Grant, the host continued, people call you the voice of resilience. What kept you moving when life collapsed? Elena inhaled slowly. My children, she said, smiling toward the front row where the triplets waved proudly. They reminded me every sunrise is a second chance. Lucas added, and she reminded me power means nothing without compassion. Applause rose softly. Cameras zoomed on their intertwined hands, a picture of rebuilt trust. You never blamed anyone? The host asked. Elena shook her head. Blame keeps you where pain left you. Forgiveness lets you walk again. Viewers everywhere felt the weight of truth land gently. Backstage, Mason watched with quiet pride, remembering the night he'd carried her unconscious body through Manhattan rain. Now she sat radiant under lights, her voice steady, her purpose unstoppable. Dr. Naomi Blake, seated beside him, whispered, she found her peace. Mason nodded and gave it back to the world. On stage, the host leaned closer. Mr. Grant, after decades in business, what lesson defines success for you now? Lucas smiled faintly. It's not measured in profit, but in the people who smile when you walk in. The crowd erupted in applause. Outside the studio, city lights shimmered like witnesses to redemption. In a small apartment across town, Nathan Brooks watched the broadcast alone. The television flickered, reflecting fragments of his weary face. Elena's words reached him like confession wrapped in mercy. When Lucas spoke of compassion, Nathan exhaled deeply, the sting surprisingly gentle. You won, Elena, he whispered, then corrected himself, voice breaking. No, we both did. For years, he'd chased power only to find emptiness. Now, her peace filled the silence he once feared. He raised his glass of water in quiet salute. You kept your light, he said softly. For the first time, envy was replaced by humble admiration. The interview concluded with a standing ovation. As cameras powered down, Elena rose to greet audience members while the triplets rushed the stage, hugging her legs. Lucas lifted Caleb onto his shoulders, laughter echoing through the studio. Mommy's famous, Noah announced proudly. Elena laughed. Mommy's grateful. Reporters snapped final photos, none capturing the private glance exchanged between husband and wife, a silent promise of more ordinary tomorrows. When the lights dimmed, Elena turned to Lucas. You think the world will remember this night? He smiled. Maybe, but what matters is we'll remember the journey that brought us here. She nodded tearfully. Outside, the evening air carried cool serenity. Cameras flashed once more as security guided the family toward their car. Mason held the door open. Another chapter closed, he said warmly. And a new one beginning, Elena replied. As they drove through downtown, Chicago glittered like liquid gold. Lucas reached for her hand, thumb tracing her wedding ring. Everything feels lighter, he whispered. Because forgiveness weighs less than pride, she answered softly. The children sang in the back seat, their voices sweet and unfiltered. For the first time, Elena realized the world no longer watched her. She was simply living it. Later that night, they returned home to the lake house. The children ran inside, releasing laughter that filled every corner. Elena stepped onto the balcony, the water shimmering beneath moonlight. Lucas joined her, slipping an arm around her waist. Do you ever think about him? He asked quietly. Sometimes, she admitted, but not with anger, just gratitude. Without the breaking, I'd never have found you. Lucas kissed her temple gently. Then let's never forget what pain taught us. To choose peace, she said. The lake reflected their silhouettes. Proof that love, once shattered, could indeed be rebuilt more beautifully than before. In the following months, the Grants continued their quiet mission, funding schools, mentoring young creators, building opportunities where doors had once been closed. Elena's studio became a sanctuary for women pursuing second chances. Her motto hung above the entrance: create from scars, not from fear. Lucas often stood at the doorway watching her work, heart swelling with pride. Every time the triplets brought Caleb's giggles into the room, the past felt farther away. Elena understood now that redemption wasn't loud. It was consistency, love in motion, healing repeated daily. Their home wasn't a mansion. It was a living testimony of grace. One afternoon, while sorting old sketches, Elena found her original gala design, the project Nathan once ridiculed. She traced the edges and smiled. Funny how this started everything, she murmured. Lucas looked over her shoulder. Are you finally ready to finish it? She nodded. Yes, but not for recognition, just closure. Together, they updated the design, launching it quietly online. The project went viral within days, celebrated as the design that forgave history. Elena read the comments, eyes glistening. They see hope, not hurt. Lucas squeezed her hand. Because that's what you gave them. Her laughter returned, light and entirely free. Months later, during a family walk along the lakefront, Elena paused to watch the sunset melt into the horizon. The triplets chased Caleb down the pier, their laughter mingling with the wind. Lucas took her hand, eyes reflecting the golden glow. If someone asked what saved you, he said softly, what would you answer? She looked at him and smiled, believing that storms end. The waves lapped gently against the shore as they stood together, whole and unbroken. Behind them, life went on. Ahead, peace stretched endlessly. Love hadn't just returned. It had rewritten everything, and this time it stayed.